I'm Aria Schwartz along with Rachel Galligan, and welcome to the Winsidr show where it's all about the W. The finals are set, and we just witnessed a historic semifinals. But before we go in depth on the finals, we want to recap and react to the Las Vegas Aces and the Dallas Wings, and the Connecticut Sun and the New York Liberty. So let's dive right into the WNBA semifinals. If you like our show, please consider joining our Patreon community, patreon.com/Winsidr, patreon.com/Winsidr. For less than a cup of coffee a month, you can directly show support for the hard work we do covering the W. And don't forget to see our amazing staff's written content over at Winsidr.com. That's Winsidr.com. We've only got up to five more games left in the WNBA playoffs. So if you're looking for a fun way to enjoy them, join the Winsidr playback watch parties. Use the link playback.tv/Winsidr. That's playback.tv/Winsidr. Welcome back to the Winsidr show. Excited as always to be in the booth with Rachel, but a little extra excited. One, because Rachel is now a married woman, but maybe more importantly, less importantly, it's all equally important. It's the playoffs, baby. It's the playoffs. Not to belittle your amazing wedding.
Yeah, no, it took me a minute to kind of this is my downtime with my normal job. And so it was the perfect time to get married and do all those types of things. But I was kind of disconnected through the semis, and I feel like, okay, I'm caught up. I watched the games the other night. I watched the game on Sunday. So I feel pretty good. I'm ready to talk about all the things. And I am absolutely locked in for the finals. Appreciate everybody giving me a little chance to go enjoy my special day. So thanks.
Well, let's start it off with the sweep. I don't even know where to begin. Because here's the thing. If you would have told me, and I know a lot of people out there like to say oh, Aria hates the Aces, Aria's, just riding for the Wings, blah, blah, blah. No. I want every series to go to 5. And when I looked at this series, let's just break it down. 97-83 Aces, 91-84 Aces, 64-63 Aces. I think overall, my takeaway is there was a lot left on the court. If you're a Dallas Wings fan, if you're a Dallas Wings player, coach, you have to look at this series and go, you have to, I don't know, Rachel, as a player, when you come out of a series and you know that you beat yourself, and I know everyone's going to push back that Vegas Aces are the number one team, blah, blah. I completely understand that. Game 1 was a shellacking, and I'm not talking about the final score. It was a shellacking. But then when you talk about game 2, which 91-84, I know a nice little gap there too, but the amount of turnovers, the amount of offensive rebounds, just the free throw discrepancy in both those games, it just, to me, there was so many places where it didn't matter what the Aces were doing, that the Dallas Wings kind of tripped over themselves and hurt themselves. How do you come out of a series like that? How do you react?
I think that the bigger issue was the game 3. I mean, I really do feel like that was a game Dallas should have won. They won all the toughness categories. They ended up winning points in the paint. They out-rebounded Vegas significantly by a few, I believe. All those types of things you kind of look at, they forced Las Vegas into 20 turnovers. I mean, but then all of a sudden it's they end up going cold. They just go cold for the final 5 minutes, and Las Vegas is able to pull ahead and win the game. And I just feel like Dallas is a good enough team to have been able to steal at least one. You know what I'm saying? Did I expect them to win this series? No, not by any stretch. Did I expect it to be a full-on sweep? I mean, I'm not too surprised, but I really feel like Dallas was in control. They should have won that game 3. And if, it wasn't for the final 4 minutes and 97 seconds or whatever that, I don't even know how long it was.
I believe it was 4:97 exactly. I mean, they literally go cold. To drop some stats on you, they forced the Aces into 19 turnovers.
54 minutes 4 minutes and 57 seconds, not 97.
Sorry, yeah.
All day from judges. But no,
Thank you. Yes,
I feel like Dallas should have won that game, and I think their shot selection down the stretch, they beat themselves.
Yeah, they got equal amount of 3-pointers made, right? They're shooting a handful more, 17 more shots than Vegas, and this is the wild part. Forcing Vegas to 19 turnovers is an impressive feat in its own. And to not get, this game was much better than in the game before, in game 2, where they just got barely any points. I think it was 8 points off turnovers, off like 8 or I think it was like 10 or 12 turnovers, something crazy like that. When you're forcing,
for sure,
it came down to Dallas's offense didn't show up. Their defense showed up all season long. The defense was in flux. It was really good. It was bad. It was great. It was horrible. But the offense was never the question. And then you kind of hit the playoffs and you go up against just a beast of a team.
Well, here's the thing. I mean, you have a game that's scored in the 60s. The final score was 64-61 Las Vegas, and you hold Asia Wilson to 13 points. I mean, if I'm Dallas and I'm looking, okay, if that's how I'm looking at, okay, this is what the final score is going to be. Everything about that plays in their favor. I think you texted me at one point, you're like, man, nobody can hit a shot. And you're like, man, Las Vegas can't hit a shot. And I was like, the crazy part is they're actually shooting better than Dallas. And it didn't feel that way. The game was the way the game was being played.
They shot 40%. But here's the thing that I think is the major standout. We look at the free throws of this game. 10 for 14 from Vegas, which is not very good by Vegas' standard, right? But 7 of 15, that's 46% for the Dallas Wings. We're talking about a 3-point game here. Now, I am completely against pointing the finger at referees. You were bad, blah, blah, blah. You cost the game. You decided the game when it comes to sports. You don't let the referee do it. And often I think it's hard to point at a singular stat. But when you're shooting 15 free throws and you're sub 50% and you lose by a single basket, to me, it's like, they're free. What are you doing? That's just, you're like, I don't know what else to say. Like, you want to talk about a variety of things. Just like you said, this was their game to win. All they had to do was hit 10 of 15 free throws and we're in overtime.
Well, and the shot that just keeps replaying in my mind is the out of timeout where Natasha Howard airballs it by 2 feet to the left. And I'm just like, is that the shot you were looking for? You know what I'm saying? And again, you can't really look at one specific play. They had some looks down the stretch. I mean, they even get the ball back after that, and you get the ball in the hands of Arike, and she's shooting a fadeaway corner shot that she's hit. How many of those buzzer beaters now?
I will say, can I just push back? Because I know everyone, look, we all know who should be getting the ball when the clock expires on Dallas Wings. There's no question. It's Arike, right? I will say this, though. At the point of shooting, Natasha Howard was shooting 50% from 3. She was 2 for 4 in that game. Granted, 5 for 11.
It's not even that I'm like, I hate the shot. It was a look. It's just the way it missed. I was just no.
Yeah. That's just, if it rims out, it's not as bad. You know what I mean? Right. Yeah, that was just a tough one. Odyssey Sims, who's been so great for them at times, struggled handedly. But you know what? I think when you look at this team, there's some obvious issues. And if you would have asked LT what this team was lacking going into this season, I think she would probably say some shooting.
For sure. So I know that for a fact.
I do too, but I was just gonna, pretend. Whatever. Fine, Rachel. Brag.
Regardless, I mean, I didn't expect Dallas to get past the semis. I thought they'd steal one, and I mean, again, I know that game 3 will sting for that team and that coaching staff for the rest of the offseason. I mean, 11 lead changes, 6 ties. You're keeping the reigning champs in the 60s. That one hurts, but at the end of the day, let's be honest. And we will do a preview later on this week about the finals, but we knew what the outcome was going to. At least I did. You might have had a little discrepancy. You thought Dallas might be able to sneak in a few more wins, but
no, it's not even like I think they were going. And this is the thing I've always said, and I think in WNBA sports media or talking heads, whatever, there's like a lack of understanding of like, do I know? Like, obviously, the Vegas Aces are the favorite team and most likely to do it. There's a reason they're the number one team. When I say a dark horse, it's because I want every series to go to 5. I as a viewer, as someone who gains enjoyment and excitement and the stories behind it and everything. Look, there's a reason we call them super teams, right? As much as these players of these teams might want to not use that term anymore, like the reason we use that term is because of how stacked these rosters are and how levels beyond every other team they are. So like, did the Dallas Wings have an opportunity, in my opinion, to steal game 3 easily and game 2, honestly, if I'm being real? So like, for me, do I think that they're going to win? No.
I think the glaring thing to me is how well Las Vegas was able to take care of business through the finals from a rest standpoint. We talked about
that's so important.
We talked about that early on. I mean, like if there was going to be a team, I think, whether it was Chicago or Dallas, that could be able to just be disruptive enough and steal a game and just drag this out a little bit longer, so that when they did get to the point of the finals, they weren't as rested. But shit, you got to give Vegas credit. Look at them. They took care of business. They're going to have as much time in the world off, as anyone else to be able to prepare for these finals. I mean, that to me, for the Las Vegas Aces, is the biggest thing, that we can address right now for a team that lacks the depth off the bench. We all know this. Being able to just sweep and rest and do it in such a concise and efficient manner has been the most impressive thing to me.
No question at all. And I mean, A'ja Wilson, she goes, 3 games in a row, scoring 30 points, just on a tear, playing insane, scores 13, 2, and 2 in this game. Now, she did have 9 turnovers. She struggled, but I think that is such a key aspect. This team has stayed cool, calm, and collective. And I keep saying it about them in the playoffs because there's been times where Chelsea Gray has struggled, or, Kelsey Plum has struggled, or Jackie Young has struggled, or now we can say A'ja Wilson has struggled. But they've stayed calm. They've stayed true to themselves, where I think you see the opposite in Dallas, where there was times where it boiled over. And we saw that from Connecticut too, which is probably a good segue. But Dallas is a team that can be happy about how this season went because they did grow. I said were they going to win a championship this year? No. But for me, I thought the ultimate growth for them would be winning a semifinal game. I think they came up short on that.
Yeah.
But they have a lot of growth. And I think the quad of Howard, McCowan, Sabally, and Enrique is a powerful batch that is going to be exciting. Let's talk about New York, Connecticut. Give me your thoughts.
Man, great game on Sunday. I mean, unbelievably inspiring performance from Jonquel Jones. I mean, holy, my God, like what Jonquel Jones was able to do that second half and just the sheer willpower. And I'm not even talking about like the scoring. I'm just talking about like some of the rebounds and like sheer will for the basketball. It was some of the best basketball I've seen JJ play. I was so impressed with that second half. Ended up finishing with 25 points and 15 rebounds, but just like, laying your heart on the line. I think that was the case for both teams. I mean, you saw Alyssa Thomas go down, which is hard to see. We never see that really happen. She goes down. She has to go back into the locker room and then, of course, comes back because she is superhuman the way she is, comes back into the game, notches a triple-double with 17 points, 15 rebounds, 11 assists. I mean, 2 really great performances by Alyssa Thomas, by Jonquel Jones. I want to echo like just everybody, who it really, really, really takes note and has acknowledged the season that Alyssa Thomas has had. I mean, I love the quote that even she said herself, like, I'm doing things that have never been done before and won't be done before. And if they are, it's going to be me doing them. I love that. I thought that was so legit.
To finally hear Alyssa Thomas speak like that, a player who has been so humble, and like, props to anyone who wants to be humble. But like me personally, I appreciate a little braggadociousness, and she's deservingly so.
When the time is right. Absolutely. I mean, this is a player who got the most number 1 place votes for MVP. I mean, this is the closest race in the history. We don't need to get into that right now, but I'm just saying, man, like Alyssa Thomas should be talked about on every show and every recap and every type of WNBA, just conversation that's happening right now, and should have been for the last couple of months for the type of season she's had has been historic. So, it was really nice to, see her come back on the court, be okay, finish the season with a triple-double. But as a whole, I just felt like Connecticut, I don't know, obviously it was a close game. It was a 3-point game. But
they ran out of gas, Rachel.
Like they ran out of gas. And at some point, like you felt LA and Jonquel Jones just completely imposing their will in like the final quarter. Like it's like, what is it going to take to try?
You mean New York?
Hump? That's what I'm saying. Yeah, New York. What is it going to take for Connecticut to try and get over this hump? And you just never got the sense that they could. And like the way that game was being played, it didn't feel like a 3-point game. If that makes sense.
It really didn't. And like I was texting you this earlier, like it just felt like I've been saying this, and I need to find a Connecticut Sun fan. I need to tap in deep into this fan base and figure out. We know like every sports team has a historic curse. We know, like, I'm just going to say this. I'm going on record. The Connecticut Sun are cursed. Okay. Like it's just too much piled up throughout this season. And it isn't just this season. We can go back to, Jazz Thomas injuries, Alyssa Thomas injuries, JJ sitting out a year, JJ, like all these different injuries since this team has come together from the peak that Kurt Miller built it up to, then takes over by Steph White. Bree Jones then goes down this year. Then they get over that hump. They're looking great. They're the number 3 team in this league. Then Carrington right before the playoffs. Then Tip Hayes. Then Rebecca Allen. Then Bonner goes down at some point during the semis. Then Alyssa Thomas even goes down after JJ falls on her. And Heideman's puking on the bench. I mean, at a certain point, it was just like, I understand the disrespect, the underdog mentality and all that. At a certain point, it's like, what do you want to happen?
Yeah.
Like you can't overcome everything.
I think what's interesting is the free throw differential. I mean,
oh yeah,
unbelievable. New York went 21 of 25 from the free throw line versus Connecticut 3 of 8. And we're not necessarily, I mean, I think there was a lot of jump shots being taken from Connecticut, but at the same time, like I couldn't believe
I'm just going to, if you, for all friends, listeners, whatever, just go to the ESPN play-by-play of that game and you can get the shot chart. Telling me just based on the amount of shots taken inside the paint.
Yeah.
You know that there was more than, and that means 4 times, just 4 times there was.
And DeWanna Bonner's ability to sell them, Alyssa Thomas in the paint. I mean, yeah, I'm looking at the shot chart right now and it's just kind of like, okay, like that's
Tip Hayes attacking the paint.
That's a huge differential, and I watched a lot of the game on mute yesterday. I'm not going to lie, not because I was just watching it on mute, but I don't really know what the commentary was being said. But for me, that was the most glaring thing at the end of the game. Taking a look at the box score was just like, man, I don't think Connecticut shot a free throw until like a couple minutes left in the first half.
It was something crazy like that. It was a wild, first of all, exciting game. Really amazing for me to see Ty Harris step in, rocking Rachel Galligan, who made 52 famous, rocking it in the WNBA semifinals. But for me, it was a very kind of similar story where in past years, since Heideman has joined Connecticut in the playoffs, and we all know Connecticut's playoff history, but Heideman, when it came to the playoffs, looked a little bit hesitant, was passing up good looks, attacking the paint, kind of baiting for it, and then shooting a low percentage deep 2 or a mid-range 2. And that's not going to win you games.
Yeah, 0 for 4.
Yeah. And then we saw like Ty Harris in this series doing the same thing when she got called on, even though she had a great season, similar to Natisha Heideman in past years, where I think it's fair to say Heideman struggled this year. But then we see late in the game when she hits those 2 just stone cold, ice in the veins threes to tie the game twice, I think, or make it a 3-point game and then tie it, whatever it was. I mean, just insane from her. When we talk about New York like we talked about Vegas, cool, calm, and collective. Do you look at New York and do you think the same, or because New York lost a game to Connecticut, the first game, it kind of leaves a sour taste in your mouth?
I don't think it leaves a sour taste in my mouth. I mean, I think Connecticut is still like a step above Dallas in my mind. Like, I just think that they, if I'm looking at the tiers in my mind of the top teams in this league, Connecticut was better than Dallas. That's a team that has experience on this stage. Dallas, to me, is a team that's learning to get to that stage, and they're going to build off of their semifinal appearance this year. And I fully anticipate them to be back in the conversation a year from now. I just think Connecticut's a little more seasoned, a little more experienced, and you have arguably an MVP on your team who's having the most heroic season of all time, able to will this team. To me, no, I don't think that the fact that New York lost a game to Connecticut, it doesn't really faze me. I think it's a tough matchup. But for game 3, Connecticut gave all they could. They did. They threw everything they could at them. I wish they would have had a little bit more efficiency from deep. I wish they would have gotten to the free throw line a little bit more. We'll talk about the refs sometime in the offseason. But to me, it's the Jonquel Jones factor. I mean,
that was the question.
JJ was not going to be denied, and she was not going to allow New York to lose this game in that second half. And it didn't matter. She was going to do whatever it took.
It was to see what JJ did in this series against her old team, to see what Rebecca Allen did in this series against her old team, and then also to see what Benijah Laney did. I don't think she ever played with Connecticut. She played on like almost every other team in the league. But just a really impressive show by New York, honestly, because to see New York be able to really get physical, play against that type of team, I think really prepares them for the finals. I'm excited for it. We're not going to talk about the finals in this one, but I have a question for you, a little bit out there question. Rachel, do you think there should be a one-time game at the end of the season between the two semifinal losers to decide who's the third place team? Should Connecticut and Dallas be playing in this week between? I know it's kind of a pipe dream because the W players are already overseas at this point, winning awards and such. But if we're at a point where there could be a prize pool for, first place, second place, third team, and so on, do you think it would be an idea?
No. In what league does that happen?
International, like Olympic, internet, where there's medals, but only in games. Wait a second, Rachel, you cover international. You're telling me in like the U19 there isn't like a bronze medal game?
They do it, but it's all before the championship game.
Yeah. So I think like after the semifinals, in the week between the semifinals and the finals, we have Connecticut and Dallas facing off on Wednesday night. I'm not even pro or against this idea. I just don't think anybody's talked about it.
I'm good with it when you're talking about medals in international competition and like, qualifying for A divisions, B divisions, that type of stuff. Like there would be no purpose to do it here in the WNBA. That's just my opinion.
Okay. Now, final thought.
Out of the box question. Why not?
Yeah. And I saw someone talk about it on social and I was like, I'm going to make Rachel answer this and not tell her I'm going to. The craziest thing for me in the last 2 games was the lack of production from Vandersloot and Sabrina. Like, I think it was game 3. Sloot had a good first half, disappeared, was missing bunnies left and right in the second half. And then in this game, she 38 minutes, 1 for 4, just 3 points. Sabrina 3 for 8, 9 points. Sloot's still going to obviously get her 7 assists, but she did have 5 turnovers.
Yeah.
I'm curious, and maybe this is a perfect like initial thoughts teaser for our semifinals or our finals preview. But I feel like when you and I have off air talked about the Vegas New York matchup, it comes down to the guards. And I'm curious for you, Sloot and Sabrina struggling a little bit later in this series. Does that give you pause for concern, or it's a new ball game? It's the finals. They got a week rest.
New ball game. It's the finals. They have a week's rest. They have confidence playing against Las Vegas. I think if anything, it's a compliment to Connecticut and their game plan and the schemes, and the way their backcourt is able to defend, probably and be disruptive. I think you've got to tip your hat to Connecticut and how difficult, they made their lives a little bit. That's I don't know. That's the way I look at it.
I mean, you're wrong. No, whatever you were going to say, I was going to tell you you're wrong. Well, an impressive showing from the New York Liberty, an impressive showing from the Las Vegas Aces. We got it, people.
I know.
What the fans predicted, what the media predicted and wanted to see, what everybody has been dying for. Well, I spoke over that so no one would hear that one. No one didn't want to see this, right?
I'm excited. I mean, the only team to me that could possibly even be in the conversation was the Connecticut Sun. So, I'm not, and they were the one team to win one of the games in the semifinals. But even then,
my final thought on the Sun. Someone tried to come up at me and be like, Alyssa Thomas, because I said, I tweeted out, I feel bad for Alyssa Thomas. But my complete thought about the Sun is just, we often, and I texted you this also because I just reuse everything I text you. But we always talk about to win the championship, you need things to go your way. You need luck on your side. Yeah. I just feel bad for Connecticut because, as I talked about earlier with the curse, of all three teams, right? We knew that they didn't have the same roster that New York and Vegas had.
For sure. I mean, think about how early Bree Jones went out. I mean, they had to play, 75% of their season?
A normal season length.
Their biggest free agency signing. I mean, and look, obviously they pivoted. Obviously, Bonner had a phenomenal year, and we could talk about, Ty Harris being able to step up. Rebecca Allen did some really good things. Alyssa Thomas, superhuman. But, this is a team that was not ever at full strength majority of the season.
And it's sad when the pecking order, it's Vegas and New York, a gap, and then Connecticut. And you need things to go right. And I'm sorry, I don't want Candace Parker to be injured. I would love for her to be in the season and in these playoffs. But realistically, out of those three teams, the team that had the lack of luck was definitely Connecticut. So you got to feel for them. You can't not be excited. I'm excited. It's going to be ridiculous. I just hope it'll go 5, and I hope it's not just blowouts.
That's the one thing I want to talk about because, again, we're going to do a preview, and we're hopefully having a good friend of ours join the show if we can ever figure out all of our schedules together. The good news is I'm chilling now. I'm through all my stuff, so I'm all focused now on WNBA. So it shouldn't be an issue on my end. But that's the one thing I want to ask you.
Throwing direct shade at me, Rachel. No, I get it. It's okay.
I've been the problem the last 2 weeks. I will take it. But real quick, but without diving into it too far, how many games does this go to? I don't need you to pick a winner, but how many games does it go to?
Do you want me to tell you my thoughts, or do you want me to tell you what I hope? I hope it goes 5.
But your thoughts. I want to know, from what you've seen this season, if you had to bet, what do you think will happen?
I think game 1's really going to tell us a lot, and I think it's really hard to kind of predict. As of today, I really feel like Vegas. As of today, I think Vegas is going to win. I don't know why I'm saying that. There's just something about being there before and having their whole team has been there before, and their 6th Woman of the Year has been there before. And you look at New York, and yes, Sloot has been there before. JJ's been there before, but never won it. Laney's never been there before, and but I can convince myself either way too, because if I talk about it too long, because then I'm you need that that drive, you need that want that for that first win, that hunger for that food you've always wanted to take a bite of that you've never tasted. Let's get biblical. I'm talking about Adam and Eve and the apple. They want that apple. If you've already eaten the apple, you don't have that same drive. So you're also making this way more difficult. I didn't say who do you think will win. I said how many games do you think this will go to? But that's the thing is though that's kind of where it tugs in my mind. 5. It's going 5. It's going 5.
We will.
What about you?
I think it's going 5. I really do. I think it'll go 5. I think it's going to be really intense because the rest of this the playoffs up until this point has kind of been a cakewalk.
Yeah.
It has not had a ton of drama. There hasn't been a ton of just like crazy excitement. I mean, there's been some good games. There's been some really like, oh man, this gives me really competitive game 5 vibes. But like, we haven't had like the drama and like the like screaming on the edge of your seat type of games so far. And so I think we're going to get all of that in one big dose here in the next, 2 weeks, week and a half, 2 weeks. But anyway, we will talk more about it once we get a minute to really sit down and dive into some numbers and analyze some things later on this week. So everybody make sure you stay tuned to that.
And that's a wrap.